Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Yesterday I mentioned my trip to Israel about 25 years ago, and that has brought to my mind another part of the trip, this time in Jerusalem. We had been across the Kidron Valley in the Garden of Gethsemane, where we got to spend time in a grove of olive trees, much like the garden may have looked when Jesus was there. We marveled at the official site of the garden, which has two trees that were alive there when Jesus was there. Then we went back to Jerusalem and into the remains of Caiaphas's palace, and in particular into some pits underneath that were used as cells to hold prisoners in that day. And it is likely that Jesus was in one of those pits for a time. Back outside, and remember this was Caiaphas's palace, we crossed a small courtyard and entered the church of St. Peter in Gallicantu. This church was made of black stone and decorated in black. It was quite striking, and it commemorates Peter's denial of Christ. When that happened, it was in the courtyard of Caiaphas's palace, and that's exactly where this church was built. In Gallicantu means cock crow. This week, as we have finished 1,000 Pastor Gary Live moments together, as we pass that milestone and do something akin to beginning anew, we are looking at some of the many, many times in the Bible story when God gives someone a fresh start, a new beginning. Today our focus is on St. Peter and that denial, and then what happened on a beach in Galilee. The story is familiar to us, how Jesus was arrested and Peter followed at a distance, and then how 3 times Peter denied even knowing Jesus in order to save his own skin. And then, just like Jesus had said, a cock crowed and Peter realized what he had done. In what is perhaps the most devastating line of all, the Gospels tell us that Peter went out and wept bitterly. He had failed his friend. He had failed his Lord. He had even failed himself and who he thought himself to be. Peter the rock was revealed to be Peter the sand. Then, of course, Jesus rose, and Peter did everything he could do to keep his betrayal and failure secret. He didn't mention it to anyone, and especially not to Jesus. Jesus told him to meet him in Galilee. Well, they waited around for a while, and then finally Peter said, "I'm going fishing." So out onto the lake they went. When dawn came and they neared shore, they saw someone on the shore and realized it was Jesus. When they came on shore, they saw Jesus had a charcoal fire there with fish already cooking for breakfast. Then the scriptures say, when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." Then he said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Then we are told an important detail. The gospel writer tells us Peter felt hurt because he had said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" You see, Peter suddenly becomes aware, and we become aware, that Peter's secret is not and never has been a secret from Jesus. Jesus has known all along about Peter's threefold denial, and on this morning is giving Peter the chance to take it back, as it were. His threefold statements of love for Jesus balance out his denial. Peter said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." Lord, you know everything. Everything I tried to hide from you, you know. And still you love me. All I can do is respond to your love with my own love for you. Perhaps in Peter's mind were the words of Psalm 51, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and sustain in me a willing spirit." Jesus gave Peter that clean heart, that new and right spirit within him. Jesus gave him the chance to start fresh, to begin again. Now, I think Jesus knew more than just Peter's denial. I think he knew Peter's heart, and he didn't ask Peter to affirm his love for Jesus in order to be sure about it. No, Jesus didn't need that. He already knew it. I think Peter needed to do this, to balance out his denial so that he could believe in himself again. And in fact, Peter did get a new and right spirit, and on this rock God did build the church. Look what God can do with our deflated, defeated, broken selves. God makes us new and changes the world. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.